let's get started. My name is Xochtil Cazador. I work at the Celo Foundation leading a lot of the ecosystem growth initiatives. Celo's mission is to build an open financial system that creates conditions of prosperity for all. This mission is deeply meaningful for me. My grandparents were Mexican migrant farm workers, and I've seen firsthand how access to financial tools can change lives. And I'm really excited to be here on stage with Leighton from PoolTogether and Giel from GoodGhosting to talk about how we are taking these concepts of DeFi and making them accessible to everyone. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Our pleasure.
So last year, the Celo Foundation launched a program called DeFi for the People with this purpose of making DeFi more accessible to everyone. So if you think about DeFi today, there are many barriers to entry. There's high gas fees, the user experience is complex, and it's largely been built for the top 1%. And so what we're going to talk about today is how we're making DeFi, and specifically savings, more accessible to everyone. So I thought I'd kick it off first to Leighton and to Giel to talk about the projects that they're working on and really what inspired them to go down this path.
Yeah, for sure. So, my name's Leighton, and I work on PoolTogether, which is a protocol for prize savings. And if you're not familiar with that concept, it's a pretty simple concept. It's like a savings account. You deposit money, you can withdraw it whenever you want to, but instead of earning like a fixed APR on your money, you have the chance to earn prizes that are distributed randomly, and your chances to win are proportional to how much you deposit. So in essence, it's a way to encourage people to save money by offering them rewards. And that's what the PoolTogether protocol is. But in terms of sort of the why behind it, it started for me, it was a little over 3 years ago. It was basically in the fall of 2018. And I was really interested in blockchain, and I was also interested in blockchain protocols that could help people become more financially healthy. And so I started doing research on, historically, what are applications that have helped unlock financial health for people. And in the research, I came across this idea. So a lot of people think this idea of like prize savings, aka no-loss lotteries, like a lot of people think it's just a blockchain thing, but it's actually been around for a really long time. It's really popular in the UK. It's a lot of like South American countries it's popular in, like Australia, New Zealand. And so the motivation behind it all was really, though, how can we build a financial tool that will actually help normal people achieve financial health? And once they have savings, then they can participate in these other things in DeFi. But before they have savings, they can't participate in anything in DeFi. So that's a little background on PoolTogether and myself.
Great, thanks for that. So my name is Giel, I'm with GoodGhosting. A bit of my personal background, so I was trained as a scientist, but I moved into the Web3 space full-time a few years ago, because I really believe this is transformational technology that can really change people's life for the better. So, for example, I graduated right in the middle of the 2008 financial crash, so I saw what were some of the problems, or made aware of the problems of the financial system we have currently. And I do believe, like with the whole Web3 and blockchain technology, we can really change something to make it a lot more open, fair, and democratic. So everybody worldwide can access these systems and like get ahead in life. So we are building a savings application that allows anyone in the world to access it. You don't require identification. You just need a Celo wallet to be able to participate. And just like with PoolTogether, we want to incentivize people to build up these good financial habits, like build up a little nest egg to really get that financial stability and get ahead in life. So we take a sort of a different approach. We're more gamifying savings itself, rather than focusing on a lottery type of system. We really want to encourage this consistent savings. So if you enter in GoodGhosting, you will know you will get ahead. You will earn some nice rewards, earn interest, and have fun at the same time. We do a lot of it, NFTs and gamification as well, but we can get to that later.
Awesome. One of the things I love about GoodGhosting and PoolTogether is just like how accessible and easy it is to use. And studies have shown there is this really interesting, I think, dichotomy between developed and undeveloped countries and like the savings rate. I remember being 5 years old at home and somehow stumbling onto my grandmother's savings, like literally a pile of cash. And I think what you guys have done is really special in terms of the design and making it easy for people to use. And I'd love just to kind of learn a little bit more about kind of what factored in there.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting because primarily for PoolTogether, what we're trying to do is offer people higher variance returns on their savings. Because if you think about it, if you have like $100, you can save that and get a small APR, but it generally is not going to be like a life-changing or a meaningful amount of money. And so like what people, and this is why like low-income people traditionally play the lottery a lot, because what they actually need is financial tools that have high variance, that have a potential to get a big return. And so what we're trying to do is offer the potential for high variance without like the need for like risking your principal, without the need for risking your deposit. And that's sort of like how we're trying to make it appealing to smaller holders to like actually save their money. So that's one of the things from like the PoolTogether perspective, but I'm sure you guys have perspective on that as well.
But it's interesting you brought up Xochtil, also like the geographical differences, because like in many emerging markets the situation is quite different than in the West, like both from accessibility but also like financial stability and the ability to build up savings. If you're not earning much and you need to spend everything on housing and food, it's very hard to save something, set something aside for a rainy day. So there are definitely like some geographical differences. But even with the recent pandemic, it changed a lot of things worldwide. So in emerging countries, we now see that the saving rate is going up. People are able to, or they're sort of forced to step in and build out these financial assets themselves because they know they might need it in the future. So there's a lot of like worldwide changes going on now that might actually improve the situation in these emerging markets. But even like for instance, in the UK only, there's 1 in 5 persons who have less than £100 in savings. So it's not just a problem for emerging countries, it's really a global thing. And savings is really hard. Like it's really hard to set aside the money, and if you do so in traditional finance, you also don't get any rewards or any meaningful rewards. So I really agree with like giving the ability of people to really earn something substantial, and especially in emerging markets, if they can earn like $5 or $10 more a week, it's really a big amount of money for a lot of people.
Just add one more thing to that, because it's interesting when you're designing a protocol that's accessible globally, is different people in different countries have very different interpretations. So one thing that was really interesting in the PoolTogether community is there was a big debate about whether or not $1 prizes made sense. And people generally in like Western countries who are in the community were like, no, this makes no sense. I don't want to win a $1 prize. It doesn't make a difference to me. But there was people, particularly in South America, and there was like one particular person in our community from Argentina who's like, actually, $1 is 1% of my monthly income. So if I win $1, that's a huge deal to me. And so that's a really interesting, as you're thinking more just from a builder perspective, how do you design these protocols in such a way where you can have them make sense to people who are accessing them in way different financial situations? Some people have a ton of money, some people have $10 of savings. So it's kind of a new challenge with global financial products.
And speaking of that, I think just kind of zeroing in a little bit, so GoodGhosting recently participated in a pilot in Africa with the Mercy Corps and the World Food Program, where people were basically able to perform micro tasks on their phone, receive income, right? So they were earning money effectively into existence, but then taking that money and putting it to work and earn yield for the very first time, which was, I think, amazing. And looking at the stats, Giel, and I'm sure you can expand on this as well, there was something like 50% of the pilot participants believed that they just couldn't save. It wasn't a concept for them. They thought that it just was inaccessible. And 85% of the participants actually did save during that pilot.
Yeah, indeed. So we did a few hundred people participated in the pilot on the ground in Kenya, like really going from fiat doing this micro work, earning the crypto, the stable coins, and putting them to use. And indeed, like a lot of people think it's really hard, but we want to make it as accessible as possible.
Yeah.
You just literally push 2 buttons and that's it. You're starting to earn some yield using the DeFi ecosystem in the back, running on top of Celo. And yeah, we noticed indeed there are still quite some pain points to get like a bit less tech-savvy users on board, but we noticed like generally the users of our platform, like 85 to 90%, they hit their monthly savings target. So they manage to make all the deposits, and we do that through giving a bunch of additional nudges for people to do that besides just the monetary reward. So for instance, in GoodGhosting, you get a nice little cute NFT when you complete the savings pool. You climb the leaderboard, you get XP, you get additional benefits. We enter you in a raffle for example, like a Celo Punk or like other NFT projects or more meaningful stuff as well. So yeah, I think people underestimate how easy it can be, because in traditional finance it's just so boring, dull, very individual. Like PoolTogether as well, we really think the both of us really want to make it a more social thing where you pool together your funds with multiple people, you interact, you have this mutual goal of saving money.
Yeah, probably one last thing real quick, but I do think the key to get people to save money is to like not make them not think they're saving money. Like saving is really boring. Like most people in crypto particularly are like interested in speculation. They're interested in and so I think the key is like what GoodGhosting and PoolTogether both do is gamify savings, and that's what it is. Now, to an end user, it might be easier to just say like, hey, deposit money and get rewarded. That actually sounds better than like saving money, because that's, people are like, well, I want to go do something more interesting. But if we can convince people to save their money without them knowing it, that's the ideal.
Yeah, that's true. We even have people who join every pool just because they want to collect the NFTs.
Right.
They don't even they say, yeah, I'm not sure, I don't want to do this even, but in the end, they're really happy because they have a few, $100 extra at the end of the month, and it's really nice to see that happening.
In many ways, what we're also talking about is savings and DeFi in this case is the first entry point into crypto, which is really fascinating. So the Defiant published an article last summer where they talked about the fact that crypto had a first world problem that was primarily focused on the top 1%. And one of the things that I am so fired up about is this focus on emerging markets. The Celo ecosystem just in the last 3 quarters expanded from 150 countries to 200 countries. And this is amazing. But with this focus on this market, I think there also is this need and this importance of education, right? And so I wanted to talk a little bit about education and kind of how that factors into the protocols and the products that you're building and that experience.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll go first. Well, yeah, I mean, any of you who have used a blockchain know that it requires a lot of education to understand how it works. So I would say that our biggest education strategy is really to empower people in the communities to be sort of the advocates. So I guess what that looks like at a more practical level is we try to basically get one community advocate who represents each language. So we have Mandarin and Spanish and Turkish and a lot of languages. And because if people find something that they believe is useful, what we'll find is that they'll be the people who will educate others, and they'll do the education for us. So our job more as the protocol, the people working on the protocol, is to make sure we can empower those people to be the educators for their local community. So that's been our most effective education. But I do think just in terms of the DeFi onboarding, savings is a really, if you look at DeFi, particularly broadly, there's a lot of crazy financial stuff. It's like derivatives and options and like all this stuff that 99.9% of people are never going to want to touch. But this like basic application of, hey, this is basically a better way to save your money. You're already hopefully saving your money, or if you're not, here's like an incentive to do so. That's something that like 99% of people actually do want. And so I do think this can be the on-ramp, particularly for DeFi, gamified savings, whether it's GoodGhosting or PoolTogether or something else, but gamified savings as the on-ramp to get people into DeFi.
Yeah, no, it's very true. It's something that everyone can relate to. They understand the concept. Like, don't go try and explain like, I don't know, like a put option and strike prices and.
Yeah, I still don't understand any of that.
Like, even if you have a PhD in finance, it's like it goes over your head. So. Yeah, so I agree, like having these community members who step up, we see it organically, like people who are, for instance, in the Philippines or like even China or France, like they translate some of our documents, they create a YouTube tutorial because they want to get their friends and family on board as well, because they see the value it brings into their life. And it's really great if you can support these type of individuals to really spread a message for you and make sure everything is as easy as possible for people to onboard. I think there's still a long way to go, but Celo is really working hard on that, like fiat on-ramping, off-ramping, better wallet integrations, all those type of things are really, really important, I think, to get the next like 200,000 or like 2 billion users on board, which will happen over the next few days. I'm quite like sure, like DeFi is going to eat more of traditional finance, or maybe like traditional finance will make more use of the DeFi backend. You might not know it, like it's this famous bankless quote of the DeFi mullet, like fintech in the front and DeFi in the back. So a lot of people might not even notice they're using it. They might use an application similar to now you have like Revolut or Robinhood or like even your banking app where you just click save money and it starts streaming you interest in real time. So a lot of these applications will start using DeFi, I believe. I think savings is a very clear use case for doing that. But yeah, it is still very hard. Like, I cannot get my mother on our application without having to, like, yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of steps, like verifying your identity, coupling your bank account, like setting up a wallet, making sure you don't lose a seed phrase. Like, these type of concepts are still very, very hard for the average user.
There are products that are kind of really focused, just to name a couple that I'm like really excited about that I think you participated in as well was Rabbit Hole, right? Which is, how do you learn to earn? And what I love about it, it's not just learning by watching a video, it's learning by doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Rabbit Hole is a really cool one for those of you maybe who are interested in learning more. It's a application where you basically do tasks, you interact with protocols, and then you get you get rewarded for doing that. So yeah, that's a really good educational platform. But also what you said too, YouTube. We find like tons of people make YouTube tutorials, and that's definitely a huge thing. So for the builders in the audience who are wondering like, okay, how do I make sure I have the best educational materials, I would say empower some content creators to make YouTube videos. That's a really good way.
Love that.
Also, like, you can just start experimenting with it. You load your wallet with literally like $5 worth, and you can try out hundreds of different applications with it. You don't need big capital to do it, just do by learning. Like, it's literally all available. You just sometimes sadly have to put in a lot of effort currently to do it, but yeah, I really like this open ecosystem where you don't need to sign up, you don't get restricted because you're from a certain country or you don't have an ID. Like, you don't need all these things to use many of the applications on Celo.
Just expanding on that a little bit. So also Celo being kind of mobile first blockchain, right? Optimized for mobile with the light client and the phone number mapping. There is this potential, that, we're gonna see, 1 billion users, right? In like the next year, and there's potential for even going further beyond that. How are you thinking about mobile and that experience for your users? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think mobile is quite underrated. I'd say in the US and EU, like many people do have a laptop or a desktop, but in Southeast Asia, for example, or Latin America, that's not really the case. I believe in Vietnam, only 5% of the users, their main device is a laptop or a desktop. So even for like, let's say, our generation, millennials, but when you go to like Gen Z, like most of their activity is happening on mobile. Like not many people still have like this dedicated device, like a laptop or desktop. So if you really want to get all the people and the future generation on board, you need to focus on mobile. And we're like heavily going towards that with GoodGhosting as well. We're currently already mobile compatible, but we will be working on a lot more features to make it more seamless and cater to these people. But also like inviting somebody or sending them money through SMS is very powerful. So a lot of people in Africa, for example, they don't have access to smartphones even sometimes. So you can like send money through SMS or it's really, really powerful tool, I think, for a lot of people in the world.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing that we're focused on is trying to make also the integrations into the mobile wallets. So like Valera is doing a really good job of that now, where you can actually access the applications in the Valera wallet. Like that's like a 10x better user experience. And so that's the other way that I think Celo's obviously been focused on this for a long time, and I think that is one of the biggest differentiators compared to other blockchains of really focusing on like mobile and accessibility for the majority of people in the world, which is amazing.
Let's make crypto mobile.
Yeah.
So just, I think one of the other things that we, can think about when thinking about DeFi is the fact that it is, there's this aspect of composability, right? And I think that's like really the beauty of the space we're working in. How do we take these financial building blocks and put them together in different ways and like reimagine, new potential uses? So I kind of want to like expand our viewpoint for a little bit and think about, the future. I know you guys both mentioned really have been experimenting with NFTs and DeFi. What else are you thinking about in terms of the future of some of these blocks?
Yeah. Well, so fundamentally, PoolTogether is like a platform for letting people deposit, aggregating the interest, and redistributing it. And it can be done in the primary way it's done is in the savings mechanism, where it's redistributed randomly to depositors, but it actually can be done in any way. So one example of this is a few weeks ago, someone in the community created basically a pool for donations to Ukraine. So if you deposited into that, instead of the yield coming back being awarded as prizes, it all went to Ukraine. So it's essentially like a no-loss donation platform. So you can like no-loss donating, no-loss savings. Like there's a lot of different applications for it, and so that's what's cool. Again, if you're a builder and you're like, hey, I wanna like build a no-loss something else, like you can just take this code, you can just use it. It's all there. It's all audited. It's all battle tested with hundreds of millions of dollars deposited, so you're just not going to get hacked. So that's the composability. I think is there's at a base layer, it's a really cool primitive. PoolTogether has been really focused on the savings application for it, but there's also a lot of really interesting. You could also use it to like support creators, where it's like streaming interest to them. So hopefully that gets some ideas going. But
yeah, I completely agree. Like also, I think like both of our applications wouldn't exist if this was a closed source ecosystem. So we also build on top of, for instance, Moola to provide interest. We'll have integration with Mobius as well as another yield source. But I think it's very important to realize that all this innovation is happening because we can build on top of each other's building blocks. You can put the money Legos together, build something beautiful. If everybody has to reinvent each building block, we would never get anywhere. So there's a lot of power in the composability. And also things like with NFTs, for example. You can have an NFT to reward people in your own platform, but you can also bring utility to that NFT in other platforms, or allow people to use their on-chain identity and NFTs attached to it, for example, in your product and give them advantages. So, for instance, with GoodGhosting, we'll be integrating NFTs much more natively in the platform. I can't say too much, but we put out a little announcement tweet this morning. You can go check it out, but we aim to allow you to make use of your own like profile identity within the GoodGhosting game, but will also give you some benefits outside of it. Like it could be all kinds of things. It could be like getting access to under-collateralized loans, for example, based on your savings history, because the data is all there. It's all public. We can all view it. We can all check whether it's real or not. You don't have to trust a third party to do so. So there's a lot of power in building on top of each other's platforms. And to be honest, like we've been talking, I think in 2020 we first talked before we started GoodGhosting just to get some advice how to set up the company, etc. And we already started to think then about like potentially integrating PoolTogether as a yield strategy, because like you say, there's so much composability and you can make use of each other's platforms. I don't think it has to be like, it's not a zero-sum game, like you can build together and build something beautiful.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, honestly, I feel like everyone at this conference, in a sense, we all sort of like work for the same company. like when you work in Web3, where it's all open source, where it's all composable, you are all working on the same, you're all working in the same ecosystem on the same thing towards the same ends. And that's just really fun and really cool. Like, it's really awesome that you guys were able to leverage some of what we learned, and we'll be able to leverage what you're learning. And so,
we're all gonna make it.
Yeah.
I also loved, I mean, just to pick on that a little bit, like you guys were very open and inspired a lot of what GoodGhosting did, and I think having that open conversation to the fact that we are on Web3, working in this difficult area, and how do we kind of demystify this, right, and collaborate together, which I think is something really special.
Yeah, and just if anyone has questions or things like that, I mean, obviously outside of this session right now, but if anyone's wondering about how we've gone about setting things up or wants to have their own app or any of that stuff, I'm definitely here to help.
Awesome. And then just to build on that as well, can you talk a little bit about the PoolTogether grants as well, the community grants?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So PoolTogether has a community-run grant program that is really awesome because it's actually run by the community. So it basically, if I guess this would apply to two ways for the audience. One is if you're here and you're like, oh, this is a really interesting idea. I want to bring this to my country, or I want to build an interface to this, or I want to build an app for this that integrates with this protocol. You can get a grant to do so, and that's just money that you get for free. It's not like an investment; it's just money given to you. And so it's poolgrants.org, but also it's kind of cool from just a sort of self-organizational perspective to see how if you empower people that this grant team, there's no one affiliated with PoolTogether Inc., the company that's on it, and it's like a totally organic thing that was sort of started and run by people I have no influence over it. And so it's another example of how if you do kind of just empower people, they can really build the ecosystem, and you'll get a lot of dividends in terms of empowering people. So yes, if you're inspired with any of these ideas, you can get a grant.
Yeah, that's really nice. Like, I know you also have the how we call it, a factory pool. Like, you can deploy your own community games. I think that's something really important also that we're working on, to empower people to decide for themselves, like, okay, what type of risk do I want to take? How much money do I want to save? Who do I want to share this with? Do I want to set up like a custom savings pool for my friends and family? Or for instance, maybe the company I work for. So it's about really empowering people to take the power in their own hands, like take control of their financial lives, and get that financial stability, because I do notice it's really hard for people to save money. Even like friends and family of myself that do struggle with it sometimes. I really hope we can get them better toolings to help them build those good financial habits.
The key about what we're talking about is also, just to hammer this home a bit, is like there are some ideas that we're not going to think about, right? That the community is actually going to just imagine these beautiful ways of taking some of these principles. So definitely encourage you, if you are interested in exploring this a little bit further and building on top of this, come chat with one of us, apply to the PoolTogether grant program, the Celo Foundation grant program, participate in a hackathon. This is a way for you to take some of these core concepts and apply them in an even richer and beautiful way. So really encourage that. Yeah.
I'd also like to mention we are quite open to collaborate with other projects like on and off Celo. So if you have like a community and you would like to incentivize them to save money or your own token or like whatever makes sense for your community, come reach out to us. For instance, we are launching collaboration with Fly Wallet later today where you can win a free flight, for example. So you can save towards a flight, win a free flight, get a bunch of additional other prizes. So we have a community call at 6 p.m. If you're interested, just check it out or find us around the venue. Like, we're very much open to collaborate because I think it's like the only way forward. Yeah.
I know we're at time. Just want to thank the two of you again just for being amazing partners in this journey to make DeFi and savings really accessible to everyone. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.